Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Finding Your 100%. It is such an exciting moment for me right now to have a chance to talk about a critical concept. It is a concept that we learn to master will change our life exponentially. Now in our last podcast, we talked about our different thoughts and processes we have that puts us in a comfort zone based on our personality style. If we're left brain, logic, order. If we're right brain, emotion, action. And how it creates our energy and how we receive and perceive information and in return respond to it. We looked at it as an individual function. I use personality assessment tests just to tell you where you are at this moment. What your base set is. What is your base comfort zone? But finding your 100% is about expanding your comfort zone and getting you to experience things in a different way and to come to the understanding of why it is important. And most importantly, what's in it for you. So let's get started. What is a comfort zone? That's a very simple concept. A comfort zone is where you're on automatic pilot and you're not stressed in any way. You don't feel being moved from comfort to uncomfort. You're just at a point of satisfaction. You get up every morning, your coffee is made because you set the time on it. You get your bagel out, your cream cheese, and eat your bagel. Finish doing your personal hygiene. Read your newspaper. I'm telling how old I am. You go on your cell phone, you check the news on what are they doing now? TikTok. So yeah, 80% of you all check your news on TikTok now. So you check your news, you get in your car, you start up, and you head to work, or you head to wherever you're going. That's your comfort zone. But right now, I'm not in my comfort zone because I sent my grandsons away in a snowstorm. Yes, in Portland, Indiana, right now, we have snow coming down. Now I'm wondering, can my grandson, Miguel Biggs, drive in the snow? He is definitely getting out of his comfort zone today because he's from Georgia, and in Portland, Indiana, you know in Indiana, if you don't like the weather, wait 1 minute, 10 minutes, and it will change. So we have snow today. So comfort zones are that type of experience where you're moving from something that is unfamiliar to familiar. This is where we have the greatest breakdown. And remember last week we talked about relationships, we talked about our children, we talked about the workplace, and we talked about academia, okay? In relationships, spousal relationships, this is where we have the biggest struggle in relationships. Because remember that concept of marrying our opposites attract? Okay, so you got a left brain spouse and a right brain spouse, and now there are addition of children, a new career opportunity, other demands that are hidden, and we really ran into this during COVID. We saw an explosion of domestic violence during COVID because people were in confined areas for long periods of time and they focused on their differences. They did not focus on what was so exciting about the differences. Why was it important for us to have different points of views? There was a lack of value. So domestic violence went through the roof. Teenage suicides through the roof. Veteran suicides through the roof. People being despondent and not being able to think if they would ever go back in the workplace because jobs were being eliminated. All these things brought us to a point during COVID, and I don't think we processed all that this nation and the world went through during COVID. But it was one thing that was clear that actually propelled the development of achieving a well-balanced being curriculum that was developed by the Pacific Institute that I use in my training. It was out of that reality that we created that curriculum. John McNeil and his team put that curriculum together. And we've been so successful in sharing these concepts. And one of the major concepts in achieving a well-balanced being is understanding comfort zones, okay? So I think a comfort zone is pretty much self-explanatory at this time. It's where I feel comfortable. It's where I don't feel stressed, okay? However, if we're to achieve our 100%, because achieving your 100% is not a destination, but it's a process. Getting out of a comfort zone is a major concept that I teach in achieving your 100%. So let's start back in that relationship. COVID comes, we're at home, we're seeing more of each other, okay? Instead of discussing what was it about you that brought us together, what was it about you that I just saw that I didn't see anyone else and I chose to be with you, all of a sudden in relationship, those differences become annoyances, okay? Because we lost a sense of value of what was different about someone. And it became an annoyance instead of something that we perceived as being beneficial, okay? Within a family unit, whether you have kids or not, being able to accomplish the task of generating income, maintaining a household, responding to illness and aging parents or changes in the workforce, it is so needful for us to work as a team and as a unit. And how we do this is get out of our comfort zone when life changes. I talk about the process in my book that first you got to know who you are. That's why we do the personality assessment. Determine who you are. Look at those things that make you who you are. Be proud of that. Own, this is me. These hands were not created for brain surgery. I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not a neurosurgeon. That's not what I do. But communicating and actively being involved in any physical engagement, that's where my comfort zone is. But when COVID hit, I had to move out of my comfort zone. I was dealing with the imminent death of my son, who was he had just been diagnosed with cancer, and we went through a roller coaster of emotions. First, they were talking about he could get chemo, then he couldn't get chemo. So we're working through all these different things. We're processing his life. I'm processing that I failed as a father. What is this going to mean to his daughter? So we went through all of that. So I had to really call upon my left brain skills, organization, and logic to do all the things that was needed to make sure that he was at peace, that his daughter was going to get her Social Security, that he could come to my home for hospice if needed. All those emotional things that required me to stay logical, required me to stay organized. I had to leave my emotional right brain thinking and become more left brain to give us that sense of peace at that horrible time in our life. You never know what life will throw you. So that's why we say, know who you are, pull your support team together, which I did. All of my vet buddies and organizations, they helped me get an apartment in Cincinnati to prepare if my son could come home to die in the peace of our home. I worked on all those things from a logical and organized manner, got them in place, was there for my son emotionally, was there celebrating the things that he had done in his life, the status of becoming a chef at a prestigious restaurant, the beautiful daughter that he had and how much she reflected him and all of their experiences. I did not know, because I had actually written that chapter about how you deal with getting to your 100%. And once you know who you are, once you've pulled your support team together, then you have to be prepared for any unforeseen circumstance or situation. Adapt, adjust, and overcome to it. Well, him being diagnosed with cancer in October of 2020 and passing December 13th in 2020 was a moment that theory became more than theory, and I had to put it in practice. This is why it's so critical for couples to value the differences that they bring, because it's going to take all of that, your comfort zone, their comfort zone, to be willing to stretch and to move to that moment that is challenging to the relationship, that could destroy the relationship. Don't see it as a challenge. See it as an opportunity to grow deeper in your relationship. Let's move to our children. Many of you know, excuse me, it's time for a cup of Joe. Yes. Many of you know that from birth to about 12 years old is golden time with our kids. They go where we tell them to go. They do what we say we're going to do. They smile for pictures when we ask them to. It's a glorious time. But when puberty hits, oh my Lord, okay? The question as to why should I do that? I don't want to do that. That process of moving from depending on the family unit to attaching more to their peer groups, trying to find their own identity, trying to find their voice in the world, it kicks in. And that's when you will see if it's kicking in from a left brain side or a right brain side. Are they becoming more logical and organized and challenging the things that you ask them to do? Are they responding more emotionally with anger or happiness? Are they more excited about playing video games, hanging out with the guys, and just completely forgetting about schoolwork? That is where that challenge comes in with our adolescent youth. And we have to figure out how we're going to encourage them to grow and value the things that are not within their comfort zone. Okay? It is not comfortable. I thank those parents who have gold green kids that you don't have to ask them to do their homework. You don't have to ask them to turn assignments in on time and not to lose their Chromebooks and books that you got to pay for. And my heart goes out to many of you with blue and orange kids who just want to figure out how to have more fun or stay healthy and happy, and you kind of have to lead them over to that academic side. It is a very trying and challenging time, but now as a grandparent with 2 grandsons living with me, I see it as an opportunity, not as I did as a challenge when I was a parent of 4 kids and a set of twins. So experience helps you move beyond that. Oh, I wish I had this training and a book called Finding Your 100% when I first became a parent. I would have been much better at my parenting skills. And you know, we're not born with an instructional book. But thank God for this podcast and the materials that I will share with you through achieving a well-balanced being, through identifying your personality styles, and how to get out of your comfort zone. And why should you get out of your comfort zone? In the South, and y'all know I'm from Talbotton, Georgia. We know if you're not from there because you'll pronounce it Talbotton. And we know you're not from there. We're from Talbotton, Georgia. And my grandmother said, it's a bad wind that don't never change its direction. Okay? I had another elderly woman in our community once said to me, she said, brother, when you stop learning, you start lying. And many of us are lying to ourselves when we think there's nothing for us to learn. And there's no need for us to look at growth in our life. Notice I didn't say change. I said growth. Getting out of your comfort zone requires you to grow to another level. In the church, they call it going to another dimension. You gotta go. In the youth culture today, I gotta manifest, okay? I don't care what you call it. It's growth, moving from point A to point B. Measurable growth, okay? Are we having less arguments in our relationship now because I honor the way you do things and I understand it? And I'm able to communicate with you why I asked you to do something different and what is the benefit to our relationship. Growing by knowing how to talk to your children and to not to beat them down, but to fertilize the soil they need to grow into, to appreciate education, to appreciate recreation. Got a lot of fat kids running around now, overweight kids, whatever word you want to use, because they don't want to go outside anymore. We're stuck to our cell phones and laptop. How do we encourage that? Well, I'm going to tell you something about any growth that you want to achieve within your relationship or with your children. Don't ask people to do something you're not willing to do with them. Don't ask them to do things that you can't demonstrate that you're doing. Demonstrate to them your growth in valuing what they do and how they do it, to encourage them to see what's in it for you. This is the outcome you're looking for. And I'm going to stay here with you for 1 minute. I tell my students when I meet with them, there are 2 tracks to becoming an adult. No matter how you gender represent, when you're looking at adulthood, 18, you have certain legal rights in the United States. 21, you accumulate some more. And at 25, you're able to take a student loan out in your own name. You don't have to apply for student aid using your parents' income. So you really get your full adult rights at 25 in America, okay? Well, that will happen biologically if you just wake up every morning, breathe for 24 hours, and accumulate it over time, you will hit 18, 21, and 25. You will be biologically and legally an adult. But does your chronological age match your maturation age? Are you acting like an adult and behaving as an adult and achieving as an adult? That is not a biological function. That is a cognitive function. That is a spiritual function. That is a result of someone pouring information and knowledge into you. Okay? When I was 18, I knew what it meant to go in the military because my father had gone. Every family in Talbot, Georgia had someone in the military. Intellectually, I knew what that meant. But on July the 27th, when I got off of that bus, and it wasn't even a drill sergeant, it was a private, which I didn't know the difference between, told me to get off his bus, get off his grass, stand at attention. You got 5 minutes to eat when we go in there, and 3 minutes already gone. That is the point when I knew, beyond intellect, what it meant to be in the Army. You got people telling you to do things that you never heard being told to you in that way. So that's what maturation does. You go from intellectually knowing something to doing experiential learning. And this is the key to communicate with spouses and your children, is to go, I acknowledge that you have an intellectual understanding of this. But now that you had to go out there and pump the gas, change that flat tire, clean up that kitchen, cut that grass, now you understand some of the things through experience of what adults have to be responsible for. So that's individual relationship, our relationship with our children, and let's look at the workforce. I talked to my son that works in maintenance for a major manufacturing, and he came in with all these bright ideas and ran into a coworker that had been doing that job for 20 years. Well, needless to say, there was a little clash going on between the bright-eyed new kid that wants to change things and the way we've been doing it forever, okay? The biggest stumbling blocks in companies is that we do not know how to onboard new people and give permission for them to come in with new and fresh ideas and to receive it. In this past election that was held on Tuesday, young people showed up in droves. The first time in a midterm election that they showed up in droves. Young people want you to see the value of their ideas. That has been the evolution of growth in this country from time and eternity. You bring new ideas here, we evaluate them, and we run them through the machine of experience and see what comes out on the other side. But we see the contribution that young people play. Companies, you need this training for your managers, your mid-level managers, your section leaders that can help you retain new employees, get them excited, get them tuned into your mission and values statement, and to understand why you do things. But if they have a better way of doing it, you incorporate it. You create that environment of growth and not maintaining a comfort zone. Or if you keep working that fast, we don't normally do but 20 a day. Why are you trying to do 25? So often innovation and acceleration of ideas and output is seen as a liability because it takes people out of their comfort zone. But if you've had this training, you can go into your workforce with your managers and your leaders, get them to understand the concept so they are role modeling it, and it permeates throughout the whole organization because you have a continuous cycle of growth that is valued and appreciated. And everyone can see what's in it for them for doing their jobs more efficient and effective, okay? That is the power of leaving your comfort zone. The biggest struggle I have when I come into work with a group, and I can tell you all, I see those who's sitting there with their arms folded, with that look of, this is how I've been doing it, and this is how I'm going to continue to do it. But those are the ones I focus in the most because I know if I can win them, the rest of the organization will come along. I used to laugh about, you know these guys, if you work, I used to teach green job training. So I had to speak to whoever was over maintenance. And the maintenance director has a big set of keys on the side of their belt, and they jingle those keys. And if you don't get past him or her, whoever got the biggest set of keys, you're not going to be successful. So I began to administer respect for what they've done, how they've done it, and be very articulate using my left brain, logic, and order of what they have achieved in that organization. And then I share with them a new idea of how they can build on their achievement. I don't go in saying, oh, that's the old way of doing things, we're going to do things different. Honor people where they are. Give value to how they've done things, and help them develop a vision of a new way that builds on what they have already accomplished. With young people, I never talk about their failures. I talk about this is how you've done things. That was your comfort zone. But I'm here to show you how to grow from what you've been doing into a new way of doing things that will have a greater outcome, because I want for you young people what you want. Freedom and independence. You can be free as you want to be to go anywhere, but if you don't have the money in your bank account, you're not independent. So education, certification, work experience, entrepreneurship gives you that level of independence that coincides. Your freedom may be here, but you got to move your independence like this through achieving and preparing for yourself. Take Achieving a Well-Balanced Being workshop, order it with me. We can do it online. I can come in person and do the training. I can send trainers to you. Get your personality assessment done. And all these podcasts are just to open up your mind about what you're missing out by not knowing these skills that are so critical in this age that we live in to move forward in our greatest strength. So, don't forget, finding your 100% is not a destination, it's a process. Go get that 100%.